21. Black celebrity kids who are literal. Clones of their parents, side by side. Some people call them Nepo kids, but in Black America, legacy has never been that simple. When you place these parents and children side by side, the resemblance can be shocking. The same eyes, the same jawlines, the same presence echoing across generations. This isn't about shortcuts or copy and paste fame. It's about history, discipline, and identity carried forward through faces the world already knows. Today we explore Black celebrity kids who look exactly like their parents and what that resemblance truly represents. Watch closely, share your perspective, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence because this story goes far beyond genetics. Ice Cube O'Shea Jackson Jr. Ice Cube and his son O'Shea Jackson Jr. represent one of the most striking parent-child resemblances in modern Black Hollywood. From the first glance, the similarities are undeniable. The same square jaw, the same focused stare, and that unmistakable mean mug that defined Ice Cube's rise in late 1980s West Coast hip-hop. This is not a vague likeness exaggerated by social media. It is a resemblance so precise that it became central to one of the most successful music biopics of the last decade. When audiences watched Straight Outta Compton in 2015, many believed they were seeing archival footage brought to life. In reality, they were watching a son inherit not just a face, but a legacy rooted in authenticity. The resemblance extends beyond bone structure. Ice Cube's voice, low, deliberate, and commanding, has long been one of his most recognizable traits, first on records with NWA, and later in film. O'Shea Jackson Jr. carries that same vocal cadence, a rhythm that feels natural rather than rehearsed. During press tours, interviews, and public appearances, listeners often remark on how their speech patterns align almost perfectly. This vocal continuity played a crucial role in O'Shea's performance, helping him portray his father without mimicry. Instead of imitation, what viewers witnessed was something far rarer: generational continuity. But here's the real question when you see O'Shea on screen. Are you seeing genetics at work, or a lifetime spent absorbing disciplined presence and Black cultural responsibility? What makes this pairing especially compelling is that O'Shea was not handed success without scrutiny. Despite his last name, he underwent a demanding audition process for Straight Outta Compton, competing against professional actors who also resembled Ice Cube. Director F. Gary Gray confirmed that resemblance alone was not enough. O'Shea had to earn the role. The film went on to gross over $201 million worldwide, becoming one of the highest-grossing music biopics in history. That success cemented O'Shea's credibility, allowing him to step into diverse roles afterward without relying solely on his father's shadow. In the larger context of Black excellence, Ice Cube and O'Shea Jackson Jr. symbolize something deeper than celebrity genetics. They reflect how legacy, when paired with accountability, can move forward without dilution. Side by side, they may look identical, but the real power lies in how the next generation carries the weight of representation with intention. This isn't about copying the past. It's about honoring it, then standing tall enough to move beyond it. Denzel Washington, John David Washington. Denzel Washington has spent more than 4 decades defining what authority looks like on screen. From his early dramatic roles to his later turns as judges, soldiers, and leaders, his presence has always been unmistakable. A steady gaze, a firm jawline, and a seriousness that commands attention without raising its voice. When John David Washington emerged into the public eye, audiences didn't need introductions. The resemblance was immediate. The same focused eyes, the same disciplined posture, the same restrained intensity that feels earned rather than performed. Side by side, father and son look less like two different men and more like one legacy unfolding across time. What makes the comparison especially compelling is how long John David resisted Hollywood altogether. Before acting, he played professional football, spending several seasons in the NFL and NFL Europe. That experience shaped his physicality and discipline long before cameras entered the picture. When he transitioned into acting in his 30s, an unusually late start by industry standards, critics noted that he carried himself like someone who understood responsibility, not fame. His breakout role in BlacKkKlansman 2018, which earned worldwide attention, showcased a seriousness that felt familiar to longtime fans of his father. Not imitation, but inheritance. The resemblance between the two is most visible in moments of silence. Denzel has long been praised for saying more with a look than with a line of dialogue, a skill honed through theater training and lived experience. John David exhibits the same restraint. In films like Tenet and Malcolm and Marie, he uses stillness as power, letting the camera come to him rather than chasing it. This shared approach to performance, measured, grounded, and deliberate, creates a visual and emotional bridge between generations. Their faces may echo each other, but it's the shared philosophy that truly connects them. In the broader conversation about Black excellence, the Washingtons represent continuity without complacency. Denzel has often spoken publicly about faith discipline and responsibility, emphasizing that legacy must be protected through work, not entitlement. John David's career reflects that belief. He arrived prepared, not privileged, and built credibility one role at a time. Together they remind audiences that resemblance can open a door, but character determines how far one walks through it. Side by side, they are proof that greatness, when guided properly, doesn't fade, it evolves. Damon Wayans Jr. Damon Wayans has long been recognized as one of the architects of modern Black comedy. From In Living Color in the early 1990s to a decades-long career in television and film, his face became synonymous with expressive humor, wide eyes, elastic facial movements, and a grin that could turn sharp social commentary into laughter. When Damon Wayans Jr. entered the spotlight years later, audiences immediately noticed something uncanny. The resemblance was not subtle. The same smile, the same facial angles, and even the same way the eyebrows lift before a punchline lands. Side by side, they don't merely look related, they look like the same comedian at two different points in time. What truly seals the comparison, however, is not just the physical likeness, but the sound. Damon Wayans' high-pitched, incredulous laugh became a signature during the 1990s, instantly recognizable to television audiences. Damon Wayans Jr. inherited that laugh almost intact. It appears naturally unforced in interviews and performances, often surprising viewers who feel a wave of nostalgia without immediately knowing why. This auditory resemblance reinforces the visual one, creating a rare situation where comedy feels genetically familiar. It's a reminder that humor, like rhythm, can be passed down as instinct rather than instruction. Unlike many parent-child pairs, the Wayans men leaned into their resemblance rather than avoiding it. They played father and son on screen multiple times, most notably in television projects where their likeness became part of the joke. Their shared timing, body language, and even the way they celebrate a successful moment feel synchronized. Yet Damon Wayans Jr. never relied solely on imitation. He carved out his own lane with roles in Happy Endings and New Girl, proving that while the foundation was inherited, the structure was built through effort and range. Critics consistently noted that he carried the Wayans humor forward without repeating it. In the larger frame of Black excellence, this pairing represents something powerful: comedy as cultural inheritance. For decades, Black humor has been both survival mechanism and social commentary, and the Wayans family has been central to that tradition. Damon Wayans laid the groundwork by breaking barriers on network television. Damon Wayans Jr. expanded that legacy for a new generation. They are not copies competing with each other, but chapters in the same story. Together, they show that when talent, discipline, and identity align across generations, resemblance becomes more than visual, it becomes historical continuity. Will Smith, Jaden Smith. Will Smith built one of the most recognizable personas in American entertainment by combining warmth, humor, and an almost electric screen presence. From his early days on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to blockbuster films that defined multiple generations, His wide smile and expressive eyes became symbols of approachability and confidence. When Jaden Smith began appearing in public and on screen, audiences immediately noticed the resemblance. The same bright smile, the same curious eyes, and the same ability to command attention without forcing it. Side by side, father and son share a visual language that feels familiar to anyone who grew up watching Will dominate television and cinema. Yet Jaden's path into the spotlight followed a very different rhythm. His early film appearances introduced him as Will's son, but over time his individuality became impossible to ignore. While the physical similarities are clear, Jaden's energy leans inward, more experimental and introspective. Still, when he smiles or locks eyes with the camera, the connection is undeniable. The resemblance is especially striking in candid moments, interviews, red carpet exchanges, or unscripted interactions where the shared charisma appears effortless. It's not something practiced, it's something inherited. So here's the question: when you watch Jaden perform, are you seeing a reflection of his father's legacy or the evolution of it into something new? What makes this pairing compelling for longtime audiences is how both men understand performance as more than acting. Will Smith has often spoken about discipline, preparation, and respect for the audience principles that guided his decades-long career. Jaden absorbed those lessons early, but he applied them differently. He explored music, fashion, and unconventional storytelling, sometimes challenging expectations rather than meeting them. While critics debated his choices, the foundation remained visible: confidence, fearlessness, and a willingness to be fully present. These traits echo Will's early career even when the artistic directions diverge. In the broader context of Black excellence, Will and Jaden Smith represent generational continuity without duplication. The father mastered mass appeal at a time when Black leading men were rare in blockbuster cinema. The son entered an era with more space to experiment, yet still carried the responsibility of representation. Together, they show that resemblance does not demand repetition. A shared smile and familiar gaze may open the door, but what follows depends on courage and authenticity. Side by side, they remind us that legacy is not about becoming the same, it's about carrying the same spirit forward even when the path changes. Lawrence Fishburne, Langston Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne has long been defined by authority that doesn't need to announce itself. From his early theater work to landmark roles in Boys in the Hood, What's Love Got to Do with It, and the Matrix trilogy, his power has always come from restraint. A deep, resonant voice, a steady gaze, a physical stillness that pulls the audience inward rather than pushing outward. When Langston Fishburne began appearing in public and on stage, the resemblance felt immediate and unmistakable. The same facial structure, the same calm eyes, and the same grounded posture suggested not coincidence, but inheritance. Unlike many celebrity children, Langston's path leaned first toward theater rather than film. That choice alone mirrors his father's artistic roots. Lawrence Fishburne began his career on stage as a teenager, learning discipline, projection, and presence long before Hollywood offered leading roles. Langston followed a similar trajectory, training extensively and developing his craft away from blockbuster attention. Observers often note that when Langston speaks, his voice carries a familiar depth, not forced, not exaggerated, but naturally resonant. It's the kind of voice that commands silence in a room, the same quality that made Lawrence so effective in roles of leadership, intellect, and moral weight. The resemblance between father and son becomes most striking in live performance. Lawrence Fishburne has always treated acting as a physical and vocal discipline rooted in theater traditions that demand precision. Langston displays that same respect for the stage. His movements are economical, his expressions are controlled. Rather than chasing attention, he allows it to come to him. This shared philosophy makes their likeness feel deeper than appearance alone. It's not just the face or the voice, it's the method. The belief that presence is built through preparation, not volume. In the broader narrative of Black excellence, the Fishburnes represent continuity through craft. Lawrence broke barriers by portraying Black men as thinkers, leaders, and moral centers at a time when such roles were limited. Langston steps into an era with more opportunity but also higher expectations. Side by side, they embody a lineage that values substance over spectacle. Their resemblance may catch the eye, but what holds attention is something rarer, a shared commitment to dignity, discipline, and artistic integrity. Together, they remind us that true legacy isn't loud, it's lasting. Martin Lawrence, Ayanna Faith Lawrence. Martin Lawrence defined an era of black comedy with a look and energy audiences could spot instantly. In the 1990s, his wide-eyed expressions, lightning quick reactions, and unmistakable grin powered Martin's stand-up specials and box office hits that helped shape mainstream television comedy. That Martin era wasn't just about jokes, it was about presence, an ability to pull laughter from a glance before a word was spoken. When Ayanna Faith Lawrence began appearing publicly, fans didn't need side-by-side photos to make the connection. The same bright eyes and playful smile felt like a familiar time capsule opening. What makes the resemblance compelling is its natural ease. Ayanna's likeness isn't a carefully curated image or a social media illusion. It shows up in candid moments, red carpets, family appearances, and relaxed photos where her expressions mirror her father's without effort. The eyes carry that same spark. The smile lands with the same warmth that once anchored a generation of sitcom moments. Observers often note that even when Ayanna is still the face, tells a story exactly the quality that made Martin Lawrence such a powerful physical comedian. It's a reminder that comedy often starts in the eyes long before it reaches the punchline. Unlike her father, Ayanna has largely stayed outside the grind of Hollywood performance, and that distance matters. Martin Lawrence's career was built through relentless touring live audiences and the pressure of carrying network television at a time when black-led sitcoms fought for space. Ayanna represents a different chapter 1, where the legacy is visible without being demanded. The resemblance draws attention, but it doesn't dictate a path. That distinction keeps the comparison grounded and respectful, allowing the likeness to be appreciated without forcing a narrative of repetition. In the broader story of Black excellence, Martin Lawrence and Ayanna Faith Lawrence show how legacy can exist quietly. Martin's work helped normalize Black humor and humanity for millions of households, leaving a cultural imprint that still resonates. Ayanna carries that imprint in her face, an echo of an era without needing to relive it. Side by side, they reflect how identity travels across generations, sometimes through careers, sometimes simply through a look that brings a smile and a memory rushing back. Eddie Murphy, Eric Murphy. Eddie Murphy is one of the most instantly recognizable figures in American entertainment history. From his breakout years on Saturday Night Live in the early 1980s, to box office dominance with films like Beverly Hills Cop Coming to America and The Nutty Professor, his face became a global trademark. Central to that identity was his smile, wide, quick, and slightly mischievous, paired with eyes that always seemed one step ahead of the joke. When Eric Murphy began appearing publicly, longtime fans didn't need introductions. The resemblance was immediate. The same grin, the same playful spark in the eyes, and the same relaxed confidence that once defined Eddie's rise. What makes Eric's likeness especially striking is how naturally it presents itself. This is not a case of styled imitation or curated nostalgia. In candid photos, interviews, and red carpet appearances, Eric's expressions mirror his father's without effort. That half smile that suggests humor just beneath the surface. The raised eyebrows that hint at mischief, they feel lifted straight from Eddie Murphy's early stand-up years. Observers often comment that Eric doesn't just look like Eddie, he looks like Eddie before the punchline lands. It's a subtle but powerful reminder of how facial expression alone helped Eddie Murphy captivate audiences across generations. So here's the question. When you see Eric Murphy smile, are you seeing a family resemblance or the echo of a comedic era that shaped American pop culture? Unlike his father, Eric Murphy has kept a relatively low profile, choosing not to rush headfirst into the spotlight. That contrast adds weight to the comparison. Eddie Murphy's career was built on relentless exposure. Live audiences, weekly television, global film releases, at a time when few black comedians were given that level of visibility. Eric represents a quieter generation, one that inherits recognition without needing to chase it. Yet even in silence, the resemblance speaks. The face alone carries memory, reminding viewers of laughter, risk-taking, and a moment when comedy felt fearless and fresh. In the broader context of black excellence, Eddie and Eric Murphy illustrate how legacy can exist without performance. Eddie broke barriers by becoming one of the highest-grossing actors of all time, redefining what black success looked like in Hollywood. Eric doesn't need to repeat that journey for the lineage to be visible. Side by side, they show that some legacies live not only in careers, but in expressions, a smile that carries decades of cultural impact passed forward without a single line being spoken. LL Cool J, Najee Smith. LL Cool J has spent more than 4 decades embodying a very specific kind of black masculinity in American culture, confident without excess, stylish, without trend chasing, and disciplined enough to last. From his teenage breakthrough with Def Jam in the mid-1980s to a long-running television career, his look has always been part of the message. The sharp jawline, calm stare, and relaxed swagger communicated authority before a word was spoken. When Najee Smith began appearing publicly, that same visual language was instantly recognizable. Side by side, father and son share not only facial structure, but an ease in posture that suggests self-assurance learned early. The resemblance becomes most apparent in stillness. LL Cool J never relied on loud gestures to project confidence. His power came from restraint. Najee carries that same composure. His jawline mirrors his father's classic profile, and his presence feels grounded rather than performative. Observers often note that Najee doesn't try to look cool, he simply is. That quality echoes LL's early era when style was about identity, not branding. The connection feels organic, not manufactured, reinforcing the idea that some forms of presence are inherited as much as they are taught. What strengthens this pairing is the contrast between visibility and intention. LL Cool J's career required him to command rooms, concert stages, film sets, television screens at a time when few black men were allowed to define leading man energy on their own terms. Najee, by comparison, has chosen a lower volume path. That distance doesn't weaken the legacy, it clarifies it. The resemblance becomes a reminder rather than a requirement. Najee's look evokes a lineage of discipline and dignity without demanding repetition of the same career arc. Within the broader framework of black excellence, LL Cool J and Najee Smith illustrate how legacy can be carried through demeanor. LL helped establish a template for longevity, staying relevant while staying grounded. Najee reflects that template visually and emotionally, even outside the spotlight. Side by side, they represent continuity without pressure, a classic silhouette, a steady gaze, and a swagger rooted in self-respect. It's proof that sometimes legacy speaks loudest when it doesn't raise its voice. Lauryn Hill, Sheila Marley. Lauryn Hill has always carried a presence that goes beyond performance. From her era with the Fugees to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, an album that won 5 Grammy Awards in 1999, a record at the time her power came from honesty, stillness, and emotional gravity. Lauryn's face became part of that language. Thoughtful eyes, composed features, and an expression that suggested reflection before reaction. When Sheila Marley began appearing in public fashion campaigns and runway shows, the resemblance felt immediate. Not only in bone structure, but in the quiet intensity that seems to arrive before words do. Side by side, mother and daughter share a look that feels inward-facing, meant to be felt, not sold. Sheila's likeness is most striking in moments of calm. Her facial symmetry mirrors Lauryn's, but it's the eyes that draw attention, focused, observant, and emotionally present. In interviews, Sheila often speaks with the same measured cadence her mother became known for, choosing intention over volume. That restraint has translated visually into her modeling career, where stillness becomes an asset. Designers and photographers consistently note her ability to hold a frame without forcing expression, a skill that echoes Lauren's early performances where silence could be as powerful as sound. What deepens this pairing is the shared seriousness toward craft and identity. Lauryn Hill's career was defined by resistance to industry pressure, choosing integrity even when it came at a cost. CeeLo has navigated a different industry with similar self-awareness, openly discussing mental health, faith, and boundaries. The resemblance then is not cosmetic. It reflects a worldview introspection over spectacle, meaning over momentum. While CeeLo has stepped into fashion rather than music, the same gravity travels with her, shaping how she moves through public space. Within the broader context of Black excellence, Lauryn Hill and CeeLo Marley represent a lineage where depth is the inheritance. Lauryn challenged expectations by redefining success on her own terms. CeeLo inherits that refusal to be shallow in a culture that rewards it. Side by side, their faces tell a story of continuity rooted in self-knowledge. This isn't about recreating a moment from the past. It's about carrying forward a way of being quiet, reflective, and unapologetically authentic across generations. Rev Run, Diggy Simmons. Rev Run stands as one of hip-hop's foundational architects. As a member of Run DMC, he helped move rap from the streets of New York to mainstream America in the 1980s, redefining how Black music, fashion, and attitude were seen on a global stage. His look became iconic. The fedora, the glasses, the confident posture, and a calm authority that didn't need theatrics. When Diggy Simmons emerged years later, audiences immediately recognized something familiar. The facial structure, the eyes, and the effortless cool felt less like coincidence and more like lineage. Side by side, they look like two chapters of the same cultural story. Diggy's resemblance to his father goes beyond appearance. From a young age, he carried himself with the same composure that defined Rev Run's public image. His early debut as a rapper in his teens drew attention not because he was chasing nostalgia, but because he embodied it naturally. The cadence, the delivery, and even the way he stood on stage reflected an understanding of hip-hop as culture, not trend. That awareness separated him from many of his peers and made the resemblance feel authentic rather than manufactured. What makes this pairing especially meaningful is the evolution of context. Rev Run came up in an era when hip-hop had to fight for legitimacy, facing skepticism from both the music industry and mainstream audiences. His generation laid the groundwork through persistence and identity. Diggy entered a world where hip-hop was already dominant, yet expectations were heavier. Carrying a legendary last name meant constant comparison. Instead of rejecting that history, Diggy acknowledged it, choosing to honor the foundation while carving his own lane in music, television, and fashion. The resemblance became a bridge rather than a burden. In the broader narrative of Black excellence, Rev Run and Diggy Simmons represent continuity across eras of hip-hop. Rev Run symbolizes origin when style, sound, and self-definition first broke barriers. Diggy reflects expansion, how that original blueprint adapts to new generations without losing its core. Their shared look reinforces that message visually. Hip-hop is not something borrowed or copied. It is inherited. Side by side, they remind audiences that culture doesn't disappear when time moves forward. It evolves, carried in faces, voices, and values passed down with intention. Jamie Foxx. Corinne Foxx. Jamie Foxx built a career on range stand-up comedy, chart-topping music, and Oscar-winning dramatic performances, yet one constant has always anchored his appeal: an effortless charm that reaches the camera before he speaks. The bright smile, expressive eyes, and relaxed confidence made audiences trust him instantly, whether he was delivering a punchline or carrying a serious role. When Corinne Foxx began stepping into the public eye, that same visual language felt immediately familiar. Side by side, the resemblance is unmistakable. Similar facial structure, the same warm smile and a natural ease that photographs beautifully without strain. Corinne's likeness becomes most apparent in unscripted moments. Red carpets, interviews and live television where polish gives way to presence. She carries herself with a calm assurance that mirrors her father's early appearances, communicating approachability rather than performance. Her smile lands easily, never forced, and her eye contact reads as engaged and welcoming. Observers often note that she doesn't pose for the camera so much as converse with it, a quality Jamie Foxx mastered over decades of live audiences and broadcast work. The result is a resemblance that feels lived in, not styled. What strengthens this pairing is Corinne's path behind and in front of the lens. Rather than chasing fame for its own sake, she trained deliberately, earning credentials in television hosting and production while learning the rhythms of live TV. Jamie Foxx has often emphasized preparation and respect for craft, and those values show in Corinne's on-camera composure. The likeness then isn't merely genetic. It reflects an understanding of timing, listening, and audience connection. Where Jamie learned those skills in comedy clubs and recording studios, Corinne absorbed them in a different era, one that still demands authenticity to hold attention. Within the broader frame of Black excellence, Jamie and Corinne Foxx illustrate how legacy can translate into grace. Jamie broke barriers by proving versatility at the highest level, becoming one of the rare performers to excel across mediums. Corinne carries that legacy forward visually and professionally, embodying warmth and professionalism without imitation. Side by side, their shared smile and ease before the camera signal continuity, not duplication. It's a reminder that excellence can be taught, confidence can be modeled, and charisma, when rooted in discipline, can travel from one generation to the next. Forest Whitaker, Ocean Whitaker. Forest Whitaker has built one of the most respected careers in American cinema through subtlety rather than spectacle. Across decades of work, from Bird to The Last King of Scotland, which earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor in 2007, his defining trait has always been restraint. His face communicates depth before dialogue arrives, soft but searching eyes, a composed expression, and a calm presence that draws viewers inward. When Ocean Whitaker began appearing publicly, the resemblance felt immediate. The same facial structure, the same thoughtful gaze, and the same quiet gravity suggested a lineage rooted not in performance tricks, but in emotional intelligence. What stands out most is the eyes. Forest Whitaker's eyes have long been described by critics as introspective, capable of conveying vulnerability and authority at the same time. Ocean carries that same quality. In candid photographs and public appearances, his expression mirrors his father's ability to remain centered even under attention. This resemblance is not flashy or exaggerated. It is subtle, which makes it more striking. The likeness appears strongest in moments of stillness when neither man is speaking, and yet both seem fully present. It's the kind of similarity that resonates more deeply with age, especially for audiences who value nuance over immediacy. Forest Whitaker's career has been shaped by deliberate choices. He often selected roles that explored moral complexity, historical weight, and human fragility, resisting typecasting even when commercial shortcuts were available. That philosophy shaped not only his public image but also his private life. Ocean Whitaker grew up observing a model of success that prioritized discipline, humility, and preparation. While Ocean has not pursued the same high-profile acting path, the resemblance reflects an inherited composure rather than ambition. It suggests an upbringing where attention was balanced with grounding values. Within the broader context of Black excellence, Forest and Ocean Whitaker represent a quieter form of legacy. Forest helped expand the emotional range afforded to Black men on screen, portraying characters defined by depth rather than stereotype. Ocean embodies that legacy visually, even outside the spotlight. Side by side, they remind audiences that influence does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it is carried in a calm expression, a steady gaze, and the ability to remain centered in a world that constantly demands reaction. Their resemblance reinforces a powerful idea that dignity, like talent, can be passed down not through instruction alone, but through example lived consistently over time. Master P, Romeo Miller. Master P is one of the most influential self-made figures in Black entertainment history. Rising from the streets of New Orleans, he didn't just build a rap career, he built an empire. As the founder of No Limit Records in the 1990s, Master P turned independent hustle into a business model that changed the music industry, reportedly selling over 100 million records worldwide across his label. His appearance reflected that mindset, disciplined posture, steady gaze, and an aura of control that communicated leadership rather than flash. When Romeo Miller entered the spotlight as a child, audiences immediately noticed the resemblance. The facial structure, the confident stance, and the calm assurance suggested a son shaped by more than genetics. It suggested immersion in ambition. Romeo's early fame came quickly, but his presentation was never chaotic. Even as a teenager topping the charts and starring in films, he carried himself with an unusual sense of order. The resemblance to Master P was visible not just in looks but in demeanor. Romeo's expressions echoed his father's composed intensity, and his body language projected awareness beyond his years. While many child stars struggle under pressure, Romeo appeared grounded, reflecting the disciplined environment he grew up in, one where business conversations were as common as creative ones. What distinguishes this father-son pairing is the balance between artistry and entrepreneurship. Master P consistently emphasized education, ownership, and long-term vision, encouraging his children to view entertainment as a platform rather than a destination. Romeo followed that guidance. After early success in music and film, he stepped back to pursue higher education, later expanding into hosting acting and business ventures. The resemblance between the two men becomes clearest in how they move through space, measured, intentional, and strategic. Neither relies on spectacle to command attention. Presence alone is enough. In the larger story of Black excellence, Master P and Romeo Miller represent generational evolution without loss of identity. Master P proved that Black creators could own their work and control their narratives at a time when industry gatekeeping was rigid. Romeo inherited that lesson visually and philosophically. Side by side, they look like two eras of the same mission, one built from survival, the other shaped by sustainability. Their shared appearance reinforces a deeper truth: when legacy is rooted in discipline and vision, it doesn't just repeat itself, it scales forward. When we place these Black celebrity parents and their children side by side, the resemblance is undeniable. But the meaning is where the conversation truly begins. These faces carry more than genetics. They carry history, discipline, and expectations shaped by decades of struggle and achievement. Some see privilege, others see responsibility passed down with intention. The question is not whether these children look like their parents. We can see that clearly. The real question is deeper and more uncomfortable. Is legacy an unfair advantage? Or is it earned when the next generation chooses to honor it through work, restraint, and purpose?